Assalamualaikum and hi. In this video, we're going to go through the solution for week 7 Java looping statements, where in this lab, we have looked into 3 different main types of looping. While do, while for, we also look into the differences between for and while loop. And at the same time, we learn about the break and also the continue keywords. Just like how we have learned about the nested if statement, we also learn about nested looping in week 7. Question 1. Write a program to print numbers from 1 to 10. You need to write 3 programs using 3 different types of loops learned in this lab. For while loop, we first need to start with a integer as the counter. So integer I is equal to 1 because we want to start with 1. While I is actually less than or equal to 10. Okay. Open and close brace. We are going to print I, but we will need to add one more conditions or update there where we say I plus plus. Remember, we say I plus plus will be equal to I is equal to I plus 1. So here you start I with 1. In each of the loops, you increase I by 1 and you stop when I is less than or equal to 10. Let's try this. So I have 1 up until 10. Okay. Next will be the do while loop. So we do first, remember. Do while will execute the code at least one without looking into the conditions. So here we do system.out.println. I want to print I. Okay. But before that, of course, similar to while loop, I'll need to initialize my I. Here I initialize I as 1. And I will do I plus plus. Okay. Conditions will be at the end while I is less than or equal to 10. That will be my conditions. Let's run this. Okay, so you get 1 up until 10. So you do it first, then only you do the update and you have the conditions at the very end here. Next, for loop. Remember, for loop, we have 3 different elements within these brackets here. We need to have initializations, we need to have a conditions, and we need to have the update. Of course, here will be, within the brace will be, I want to print my I as well. Okay. But in the for loop, first I need to do the initialization, just like while loop, I initialize my integer I as 1. The condition, the second statements or second elements here, the conditions I is less than or equal to 10. Finally, I plus plus. Okay. Remember that this is the initialization, condition, and update. So step 1, we initialize it. Step 2, we check whether the condition is true or false. If it's true, then we go into the code within the brace, which we call it as the code block. And then we do the update. Let's run this. So we get 1 to 10. Okay, so now question 2, write a program to print the following. 4 weeks, only even days. Okay, we need to print 4 weeks here, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. And within that week, each of that weeks, I need to print the days, but only the even days. So we know that in this case, if you look into the output, you kind of like can guess that we need to use the nested loop. So whenever you are tasked to do a nested loop, try to do the outer loop first, okay? So in this case, I need to print week 1 to week 4. Okay, so we're going to use a for loop for this. So we'll use for integer I is equal to 1, I less than or equal to 4, because I want to print the first thing is from week 1 to week 4. And then I plus plus. Open and close brace. Now, instead of printing the week, let's simplify this and print the number first. Okay, so here will be I, right? If I run this, I get 1, 2, 3, 4. So now it's just a matter of the string concatenations where I do week space here plus. With that, I will get week 1 to week 4. So can you see that I will get week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Now, within that week 1, 2, 3, 4, I'll need to have the days. So I add another for loop here where we do for integer j is equal to 1, okay, j less than or equal to 7, j plus plus, okay. Now I will print the days because we know that in each of the week we have 7 days, right? So here I can print j. Let's try this. You will see week 1, 1 to 7, week 2, 1 to 7, week 3, 1 to 7, and so on and so forth. So because the questions require us to print only the days 2, 4, 6, I'll need to add a conditions here where I do if j modulus 2 is equal to 0, which will print the even number, then only I will print system.out.println j. Okay, let's run this. So you'll see 2, 4, 6 here. I can add in the string concatenations again here, where I put it as days. Of course, there's a space in front, so I add a space here. Now I get week 1 days 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6. That's one of the method that you can use it to complete the task. I will say this is example 1. Now I will comment this out and then we'll show you another solutions without using the if-else statements. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the if statement here and leave it with only 2 for loops, the outer for and also the inner for loop. Now I can twist these, the initializations, the conditions, and also the update so that it will only print 2, 4, 6. So how can I do that? Will be I will need to initialize j as 2 because I only want to have 2. And then the maximum that I want is 6, so less than or equal to 6. But if I'm going to do this j plus plus, I will see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I only want to see 2, 4, 6. I will need to change the update as well where I say j is equal to j plus 2. So it will increase by 2 in each of the loops. Now let's try to run this. You are going to get the same result as what we have done in the first example. So you can see in the first example, we use the if statements to control what are the days that I'm going to print. And in the second solutions here, I show you how you can actually manipulate the initializations, the conditions, and also the update within the for loops to solve these questions. Now let's move on to question 3 here. It says question 3 is built on the lab exercise from week 6, focusing on Java conditional statements. Remember the one that we asked what is the current day and in how many days that you and your friends are going to meet. Now there's an additional requirements in these questions where we need to have the following input outputs, exactly 3 user. So previously we only asked the question once, like this. Now you need to extend this so that it will ask the input output from exactly 3 user. So basically you will need to put your codes into a looping. For me, I'm going to use the while loop. While I is less than or equal to 3, okay, I open and close it, okay. Right, before we integrate this while loop into the whole programs, let's have a quick recap on the while loop. If I want to print 1, 2, 3, I would just need to do initialize integer I is equal to 1. Okay, I is less than or equal to 3. I print the I here. And I do I++, right? So the question now is how I can implement this and integrate with the existing code. I'll keep my integer I equal to 1 here. The for loop will be here, okay? The open brace here indicates, remember the open and the close brace indicates what I'm going to execute. Of course, in this case, what I'm going to execute will be from here, this open brace, everything up until the very end, okay, which will be here. So I need to close my brace here. So I should have my closed brace here. Again, my open brace will be here. My closed brace will be here. Well, it works if I put my I++ here, but for better clarity, I'm going to put it at the very end. Now, what I need to do here, system.out.print line I, just a little twist, because it says here user, right? So I need to kind of like print something like this. Again, we need a string concatenations here. We'll just do user, that's string, so user plus, okay? So user 1, user 2. Well, if you need that semicolons, then you need to do another string concatenations here. Okay, so let's run this. So you can see user 1, what day is today? I'm still going to use the Saturday example. In how many days? 10 days. User 2, what day is today? Let's say is Sunday. In how many days you and your friends are going to meet? Let's say in 2 days times. You get that. And finally, what day is today? Let's say today is Friday. We use the capital F here. And let's say one day it should be Saturday, right? So I get the answer, and you can see how I can ask the input from 3 users exactly. Now let's go back to the code, and if you notice, I didn't put the import statements, the objects, and also the variable initializations within the loop. So it is sufficient for us to import the scanner class once, and we create the object once as well. Remember, we can reuse this object, and basically we're going to use the same variables here, which is today in numbers, day to meet in string, and also our counter here. But of course, that's not the best presentations of our codes here. Remember, in our codes, we need to put in the proper indentation. So what do I mean by indentation is, if you look back into the code which we have written earlier, you have these kind of like indentations, okay, to clearly differentiate between 2 different loops in this case, okay. So this is my first loop. I open a brace here, I close it here, I have some spaces or tab here. Then I start with my second loop, open and close again. So we need to do the same thing for this piece of program here. If I start my while here and I open it, then this is the tab. Okay. Now everything after this should be in line. Okay. Of course, you can see that, you know, the program still can be executed, but for better presentations, we need to have the proper indentations. So once we are done with the indentation, then you can see here, I have the open brace here easily, the close brace here. Within that, I have two switch statements here. Okay, 1 and 2 switch statements. I also have if statements here. And you can see the indentations here clearly indicates different parts of our programs. So remember, when you are writing a long programs, well, not even the long programs, when you're writing any programs, make sure you have that indentations in place for better clarity or better readability. Now let's move on with question 4. It says it is a Java program which intends to print number from 0 to 10 and state if a number is an odd or even number. Okay. But of course, this program contains a few errors. Please identify these errors and rewrite the entire program. Now let's check. Okay. Remember, whenever we're working on a program, we always do it bit by bit, right? Now I can comment out the existing code. I can just print my I to make sure that actually it prints from system.out.println, print from 1 to 10. Okay. So I'm going to print my I here. Well, I can see some error, but let's run this. Okay, you can't really do this because if you notice I is equal to 0, I less than 10, we need to do, if you want to increase it by 1, you need to do I plus plus, not I plus. I run this, I still have some errors here. What's the problems? The problem is with the comma here, okay, because this should be the semicolon. When we want to separate in between the initializations, the conditions, and also the update, we need to have that semicolon. Okay, now if I run this, I get 0 to 9. Okay, well, what I want is actually 1 to 10. Okay, 1 to 10. So to simplify my task, actually, I need to do integer I is equal to 1. Okay, I less than or equal to 10, so that I can get the 1 to 10 here. Let's run it again. I have 1 to 10. Good. So I can remove the comments now. And of course, there are some errors here. Before I run it, you can kind of like guess what is actually happening here. For example, system.out.println, I want to print a variables with the string. So this should be a string. So for a string, I always need to have the double quotations. Now, if I run this, it says if, else, else without if. Okay, so there will be some problems with the open and close brace. I open my curly brackets here for the if statements, and I close it here. Okay. But what I need to have is actually, if I open it here for the if, I need to close it here. Okay. And then for the else, I need to open it again. Okay. And then I close it here. So you can see here, if up until here, else, open and close. Now let's run this. You get here, 1 is an even, 2 is an odd, 3 is an odd, 4 is an odd. So is this correct? This is incorrect. So now if we look back into the code, we notice that we shouldn't use the divide here. We should use the modulus. Okay, we should use the modulus to identify whether a number is an odd or an even number. I need to remove this extra string here. Let's try it again. Okay, so now I have something like this. 1 is an odd, 2 is an even. So seems like this correct. I just need to do some modifications for better presentations. I'll remove this. Add a space here. Okay. So you can see here, right? 1 is odd, 2 is even, up until 10. So we fulfill the requirement of the task where we print from 1 to 10 and indicates whether that numbers is actually odd or even numbers. Okay, question 5. What is the output from the Java codes below? So we have 5.1, 5.2, and you need to explain your observations of 5.1 and 2. Well, what you can do is actually you can just straight away run this. So we can actually add a code cell here to run the program. So I just copy this one and paste it here for 5.1. That is 5.1, or just write here 5.1. So if I run 5.1, I will see 1, 2. Okay. What if that's 5.2? Now add another code cell here. 5.2. If I run 5.2, I will see 1, 2, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 4. So if we look into this, we notice that the only difference is with the keywords here. 5.1 is using break and 5.2 is using continue. And of course, there is a difference between these keywords that cause the different outputs. Right, now let's look into this and see what are the differences between break and continue. I want to add another code cell to see the output of the for loop without the if statement. If I do not have the if statement, then I will see the output, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it makes sense, right? I is equal to 1. As long as I is less than 5, I will print I, and I will be increased by 1 in each of the loop. But when I have that conditions added to the for loop, here, if I modulus 3 is equal to 0, I'll do something, whether it's break or continue. Okay. I modulus 3 equal to 0. In our output here from 1, 2, 3, 4, only 3, right? Only 3 modulus 3 will be equal to 0. So something will happen when it loops until 3. In the first case, if I use the break keywords, the loops will continue up until 3, okay, up until 3, where if I is 3, then I'm going to break. It means that it will come out from the loop. So the functions of break keywords is to exit the loop when a certain conditions is met. That's why you only see 1 and 2. But if I put these if statements here after system.out.println, I will see 1, 2, and 3. Okay, because I print my I first, then only I do the break, then only that I exit the loop. Now, for continue here, you will see that the output is 1, 2, 4. Okay, so obviously the keyword of continue is to skip the loop, whereas for break is to exit the loop straight away. Okay. For continue, again, is to skip. So in this case, when my I plus 3 is equal to 0, then I will skip that loop. When I skip that loop, means I'm not going to print it out. That's why you will see 1, 2, 4. Okay, I'm not going to exit the loop, so I continue and I will see 4. Then only I will exit the loop because the conditions will be false when I is equal to 5. Now, if I'm going to write down, explain what causes the difference between the output in 5.1 and 5.2, I'll just write, okay, I'm going to put that as comment. So for the break keyword, okay, is to exit a loop when a specific conditions is met, right? Whereas for continue is to skip a loop when will be the same, a specific conditions is met. So I think that's it for our week 7 solutions. Thank you very much.